Yes, I hate him. And when the truth comes out, you'll understand everything.
The Los Angeles Lakers look like a franchise split right down the middle, and the tension is getting impossible to ignore. What should have been a dominant era now feels like it's on the verge of collapse. Rumors are flying everywhere, some even claiming that Luka Doncic confronted Bronny James behind the scenes. Nothing is confirmed, but the story alone has been enough to shake the entire NBA. And it doesn't stop there. Speculation about personal drama, alleged relationships, and hidden conflicts has only added more fuel to the fire. At the center of it all is LeBron James, with many believing he's pulling more strings than people realize. Whether that's true or not, the situation has taken on a life of its own. Fans first started raising eyebrows after tunnel footage surfaced earlier in the season. Luka and LeBron didn't look like teammates, they looked like strangers. No interaction, no acknowledgement, just distance. Some called it competitive tension, but others saw something deeper, something personal. Behind the scenes, whispers suggest this wasn't sudden. The tension may have been building for months. There are claims that Luka was being pushed into a mentorship role for Bronny, an idea that didn't sit well with a player performing at an MVP level. Still, Luka reportedly kept things professional, focusing on winning and putting the team first. But then came the rumors that changed everything. Stories began circulating that Luka discovered something personal that crossed a line, something involving Bronny and someone from Luka's private life. Again, nothing confirmed. But if even a fraction of it is true, it would explain why things escalated so quickly. For a player already dealing with intense pressure on and off the court, that kind of situation could be the breaking point. At the same time, Luka was reportedly facing serious challenges in his personal life, family issues, legal stress, and emotional strain, while fans were watching him dominate on the court, dropping huge numbers night after night. There may have been a completely different battle happening behind the scenes. Meanwhile, questions around Bronny's role have only grown louder. Critics argue he's being given opportunities most rookies wouldn't get, while supporters say he's simply developing under extreme pressure. Either way, the spotlight has made everything more intense for him and for the team. All of this has created a storm around the Lakers. Every game, every interaction, every press conference now feels loaded with meaning. The chemistry doesn't look the same, and people are starting to wonder how deep the divide really goes. In the end, the truth is still unclear, but the combination of locker room tension, personal struggles, and non-stop speculation has turned what should have been a championship run into one of the most talked about situations in the league. And until something is addressed publicly, the questions and the drama aren't going anywhere.
I'm not sure. I mean, obviously you have to ask Luka what he saw on that, but I thought he had a good look, and it looked like he kind of just lost his balance.
It feels like a classic deflection tactic. Shift the blame onto Luka Doncic, and maybe fans won't notice what's really happening behind the scenes. Because while the spotlight stays on him, questions start to fade about roster decisions, like whether opportunities are being taken up by players who haven't fully earned them yet. But the situation didn't stop there. Rich Paul added fuel to the fire during an appearance on his Game Over podcast earlier in the year. He pushed the idea that if the Los Angeles Lakers truly want to maximize Luka's potential, they need a defensive anchor, specifically someone like Jaren Jackson Jr. On the surface, that sounds like a smart basketball move. Every contender needs defense, but the real issue was what came next, because building a deal like that means giving something up. And that's where things got uncomfortable. Paul reportedly referred to Austin Reeves, one of Luka's closest teammates, as just an asset, not a key piece, not a core player, just a trade chip. For a locker room already dealing with tension, that kind of language doesn't just stay on a podcast, it lingers.
The Lakers, I would probably be targeting the Memphis Grizzlies as a trade partner for Jaren Jackson.
Think about how calculated that move would be. Trading Austin Reeves wouldn't just be about fixing defensive issues. It would reshape the entire dynamic around Luka Doncic. To some, it feels less like a basketball decision and more like a power move, removing a key ally and forcing Luka to adapt to a system he didn't choose. What makes it even more interesting is how the numbers tell a completely different story. During the 2025-26 season, lineups featuring Luka and Reeves have reportedly been far more effective. The offense flows smoother, the spacing looks cleaner, and the chemistry feels natural. Their on-court partnership has produced stronger results compared to other combinations, suggesting that breaking them up might actually hurt the team more than help it. There's also been subtle hints in interviews. Reeves has mentioned that he and Luka spend time together away from the facility, building a connection beyond basketball. It's the kind of bond that often translates into better performance on the court and possibly a shared understanding of what they want the team to become. Now, contrast that with the growing debate around Bronny James's role. Critics argue that his development is being prioritized in ways that impact rotations and overall team performance. Supporters, on the other hand, say he's a young player navigating enormous pressure and expectations. Still, the conversation keeps coming back to one question: is the team fully focused on winning right now? Because when a roster starts feeling like it's being shaped by long-term narratives instead of immediate results, tensions are bound to rise. Every decision, minutes, rotations, even potential trades gets viewed through that lens. And it's not just fans talking anymore. Voices from around the league have started weighing in. Jaylen Brown was caught on camera during Summer League making a candid remark about Bronny's readiness, something that quickly spread online. Then you have outspoken legends like Charles Barkley, who openly criticized the situation on national television, calling it a bad look for the organization. When current stars and all-time greats both start raising eyebrows, it tells you this isn't just normal media noise anymore, whether it's overblown drama or something deeper. One thing is clear: the Los Angeles Lakers aren't just dealing with basketball problems, they're dealing with perception, pressure, and a narrative that's getting harder to control by the day.
He's going to attract a lot of bets. I don't think that's going to come to fruition, but just in terms of how LeBron and the Lakers have handled this whole situation, what are your thoughts on that?
You've handled it awful. Awful.
Charles Barkley's argument hits hard because it taps into a bigger concern. The criticism isn't just about one player, it's about priorities. The idea being pushed is that in trying to elevate Bronny James, LeBron James could be risking the legacy he spent decades building. That's what makes the conversation so uncomfortable. It's not just basketball anymore, it's legacy. Barkley also pointed to something that resonates across the league: opportunity. There are players grinding in the G League, putting up serious numbers, and waiting for even a short-term call-up. When roster decisions appear influenced by factors beyond performance, it raises questions that fans and analysts can't ignore. Even voices closely tied to the Los Angeles Lakers have started to show hesitation. Magic Johnson, a figure synonymous with the franchise, suggested that more development time might be the best path forward. It wasn't harsh, but it was telling, and it added to the growing sense that things aren't as smooth as they appear. Then there's Stephen A. Smith, who's built a reputation on strong opinions, but has often defended LeBron in the past. Even he seems to be reaching a point of frustration, calling for clarity and urging the situation to be handled differently. When voices from every corner, legends, analysts, and insiders, start aligning on the same concern, it becomes harder to dismiss. Whether people agree or not, the narrative is gaining momentum, and it's putting more pressure on everyone involved to respond.
Right now, Bronny James is averaging 0.3 points, 0.3 assists, and 0.4 rebounds.
At this point, a lot of people feel like they're being asked to believe in something that hasn't fully materialized yet. Stephen A. Smith addressed it directly: the pressure surrounding Bronny James isn't just intense, it may actually be counterproductive. When expectations are pushed too high too fast, the backlash can end up doing more harm than good for a young player still trying to find his footing. And yet, the narrative keeps being pushed. Critics argue that LeBron James is determined to establish a legacy pipeline, ensuring the James name continues at the highest level. But forcing that conversation before the performance matches it only increases scrutiny. And that spotlight isn't easy for anyone to handle, let alone a rookie. Then you have voices like Kwame Brown, who bring a completely different perspective. Having lived through the pressure of being labeled a disappointment early in his career, he didn't hold back. He questioned the narrative from the ground up, pointing out that Bronny's path has always been surrounded by elite talent, even dating back to his time at Sierra Canyon School. His argument wasn't just criticism, it was a warning. The league, the media, and the fans have seen this story before. When expectations outpace reality, the fallout can be brutal. And that's really what this whole situation is becoming about, not just performance, but pressure, perception, and whether the narrative being built matches what's actually happening on the court.
We got high school players better than Bronny. Absolutely got high school players better than Bronny. Bronny was never the best high school player on his team. He was never the best college player on his team.
The numbers don't lie, and that's what makes this conversation so uncomfortable. Bronny James entered the league with questions already surrounding his readiness, and his early production hasn't exactly silenced the critics. Even going back to his time at University of Southern California, where his role was limited, the concerns were there long before he reached the NBA stage. Now fast forward to the current season, and the gap in impact is hard to ignore. When Luka Doncic is running the offense, the system looks fluid, efficient, and dangerous. The ball moves, the spacing opens up, and the team performs at a high level. But when certain rotations shift, the drop-off becomes noticeable, and that contrast is what fuels the ongoing debate. Still, jumping from performance issues to conspiracy-level conclusions doesn't really hold up. The idea that LeBron James is targeting Luka or orchestrating something behind the scenes is a stretch without real evidence. What is real, though, is the pressure surrounding legacy, expectations, and how those factors can influence decisions fairly or unfairly. Meanwhile, Luka's response has been exactly what you'd expect from a generational talent. Instead of letting noise derail him, he's producing at an elite level, putting up massive numbers and carrying the load on the court. For him, basketball seems to be the one place where everything simplifies. Performance becomes the answer. And inside the Los Angeles Lakers locker room, dynamics matter. Chemistry, trust, and roles all play a part in whether a team succeeds or falls apart. Players like Austin Reeves have publicly shown support for Luka, and that kind of connection can't be overlooked. It suggests that, despite all the outside noise, there are still pieces of this team trying to move in the same direction. At the end of the day, this situation says more about pressure than anything else. A young player under a microscope, a veteran protecting a legacy, a superstar trying to win while dealing with constant distractions. That's not a conspiracy. It's the reality of high-level sports. And until the Lakers find clarity in their roles and direction, the noise, the speculation, and the debates aren't going anywhere.